Welcome back to the Rally Cry halftime show here. I'm Mazel. I'm joined by Magical and Joshi after an intense game 2 for TSM, where they push us all the way to 3 games. I'm so excited to get 2 3-game series in a row back-to-back days, and it's going to be a fun one. Now, I do want to break down a little bit of that game here and give a little of these positive points that we actually saw the bounce back for TSM, Joshi.
Yeah, I mean, they played the early game quite well, and they just never really let go. It kind of looked a lot closer to the Dignitas game versus FlyFam, where everything seemed to be going wrong for Dignitas early on in the game. And realistically, I think while TSM did a really good job punishing, this was a lot of unforced errors coming out from CLG, where it didn't feel as though the communication was on point. And that's all you need to do, right? Against a team of like TSM, who has shown a lot of growth in the later stage of the season, you can't afford to be making those errors in playoffs. Yeah,
absolutely. We'll see what they give us, at least in game number 3. I expect a very contested matchup there. But I'm excited because we get to have a little bit of fun. Now, we usually do the Challenger Safari, where we go through and we talk about what animals kind of represent our players. Well, this time, we're in our anime training arc. We're at the start of our tournament here, so we got to get some more inspired animals. I don't know, what animal are you right now, Joe?
Inspired
I don't
animals?
know. Antlers.
Inspired animals. Yeah, inspired animals by, tying them into some maybe greater than life beasts and seeing who represents what. So I'm going to go ahead and bring up my first ones here, and the first one is fun. Let's see what you guys have, and then I'll tell you who I actually think it is going to be from. Why are you doing this, OPS? Why do you do this? Why do you do it?
You're right, it is fun.
You know, it is what it is, and I'm going to fix it just 1 second. Just 1 second. There you go. See, my computer just doesn't like me for some reason.
Not the only one.
It still doesn't like me. Why doesn't it work? Oh my goodness, this is going to be a catastrophe right now. All right, so start thinking of some mythological creatures, and who you think I might be going for first and foremost.
Spider-Man.
That's
dogs.
Not a mythological creature.
Dolphins.
I'm gonna just go
dolphins. All right, I got it. I'm
gonna go with a griffin. Oh,
nope, you're wrong. It's a hydra. Now, which member of these teams do you really think could be tied into a hydra here?
Hail Hanser.
because
every time it feels like you beat him up, it doesn't matter. He comes back again. Every time you look for somebody who's going to come back and help out one of these Academy Challengers teams, Hanser is there. He's ready to rise again. Hail Hanser.
Okay. Magical, do you have anything?
I'm just going to go with Cho'Gath and Jenkins because
That's not okay.
No. I kind of
what's so wrong with that? What's so wrong with me choosing the monster?
Well, because
they're all
not multi-headed monsters. Yeah, they're all monsters in their own way, in a good way. Now, I did kind of dupe you guys. I went ahead and put this as TSM as a whole. You can never count them out.
That's cheating.
It is cheating.
Cheater.
But it is a multi-headed hydra. You cut off the head, and they come back in game 2 swinging with multi-faceted attacks. You'll love to see it.
We've been robbed.
The first round of the tournament hype up here going well for them. Now, I will move us on to our second one, of course, because we have to have a classic. Let's see who you guys think is represented by the Minotaur. A classic.
That's
all of CLG.
Brawler.
Because they have
CLG,
yeah.
Oh no, you think I cheated again, huh? You think I cheated again?
If it's gonna be the my God, who would be a good Minotaur?
Let's
go with Svenskeren. Let's go with Svenskeren.
Oh?
Yeah.
What do you got, Joshi?
I was just saying, I'm not going to explain further, but you should read about the birth of the Minotaur at some point.
Yeah, let's not explain further with that one. It is Hanser who will be getting the Minotaur, spiel here, because I think really he has been that brawler, he has been that stable piece, but he's also just scary when you come up to him.
Didn't we already just have TSM Challengers? Shouldn't it be the other team?
And, I duped you again. You don't have to go back and forth, huh?
Wow, okay. Whatever the next one is going to be a dragon, it's also going to be Hanser, isn't it, Lennon?
You never know. You never know. We are going to move forward. They do have somebody named Dragku on their team, just saying. We do have Dragon, though, as our third one.
Wow, I think this one is also Hanser. Flying above the competition.
Yeah, I'm going to go with
the
Hanser
best
as
top
well.
player,
Yeah.
Lennon.
Yeah.
You really think me that low, huh? You
Yes.
think I'd stoop to that level?
Yes.
No, it's Copy, because he is a little bit of a sleeping dragon when you come upon him in the NACL. He's a scary beast. He'll breathe fire all over you, bringing different ways of attacking you in the mid lane, and he has a very strong strength in his own right.
I'm surprised this isn't Yukino because he's stealing your lunch money and sleeping on it.
And that's what dragons do. But I really love to see Copy try to pull off some dragon tactics. Maybe Aurelian Soul. That'd be kind of cool. Go into game 3 because he really needs to step up.
Hard this
yeah, I was like, we're not going to see him.
You know what? I want it anyways. Okay, we're going to move on to the next one here. The last one. Who is the Shining Pegasus that would be the savior here of either one of these teams?
All right, well, the real answer is Hansu, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be Dragku.
Dragku? God,
Yeah.
You really think I'm just on the TSM
Yeah.
train, huh? You think, No, it's Breezy, because he always swoops in at the right moment. He's a radiant presence for his team.
He's also red.
And he's also red?
Yeah.
Red? I don't know how that ties
I will
into
not
Breezy,
explain.
but I like it. Now, trying to get a little bit of that radiance to show off in game number 3 is definitely where Breezy wants to be. But now, as we have a little bit of time left, and Joshi, you've had a change to your face. I set up a nice little. I set up a nice little picture here that you sent me.
Okay, you said
and
it.
I've got some new mustaches for you. So whatever we decide here, let's agree. Let's agree that you have to grow this mustache. I don't care if you sign a contract. But you have to grow
I
this
see a
mustache.
couple that I'm very,
Twitch
very
side, if you
interested.
can add Joshi, whatever mustache you think looks best, take a screenshot of it, add him. He'll have to grow that one. So let's go ahead and start it off. I got my first one here, just a little bit finicky. What do you think? What do you think?
That's so small.
Basic.
Now, this was because Joshi lost in his bet on who would finish top seed in the regular season. Now, do you want to explain while we do this why you bet that way? Why you think?
What do you mean? They were number 1 and they were looking so good. They
who was
literally
number 1?
they
Explain
traded
the whole
down
bet
from
to me
somebody who
while
were
we
talking about the
lambast
most
you.
valuable prospect, and he's just no longer on the team. Yeah, at the time it was week 5. Wow, no, that looks a little bit too much like a German.
An angry German man.
Yeah, no, there's a specific German.
An angry German man.
Yeah, I suppose he was angry.
Okay, I'm liking this one. I'm liking this one. This definitely. I have to say.
I need Joshi to explain his wrong nature, and I need him to apologize. I need him to apologize to the team that he lambasted. So start from the top. Why are we doing this, Joshi?
Does he need to apologize? I'm on Josh's side here. I don't see why he needs to apologize. He chose a team because they look good. Cloud9 just happened to be slightly better. They're both good teams.
You were wrong.
I'm not going to apologize for being wrong.
Yeah, I never apologize for being wrong. I'm wrong all the time.
Oh, no. Ooh, I like this one. I think this one's pretty good.
Ooh, that one's a good one.
Okay,
Yeah.
hold on. Leave it there. That just looks like my nose is giant.
It does.
Right? Like, when you had it in the original spot, it's like lined up perfectly with like the edges of
I think this one's my favorite. I think this one's the one I need.
Nah.
I think this is the one that, Dignitas would want you to have.
It does.
I know, we'll have to ask Diamond about that one. We'll see.
But you can't beat the whiskers going up.
True. Well, that is it for our facial parade on Joshi.
What if we did what is this one called? The walrus mustache? What if we did it upside down?
Where it goes like up or like that
you just
way?
have everything but the mustache.
Okay,
well,
you're gonna have to pioneer this one, Josh.
Yeah, we'll see how that does. Remember, at Joshi, which one you think, and Dignitas, make sure you get in on the conversation too.
80% of fashion is being
hashtag
intentional
NACL to get on that conversation
Oh
though.
my
But
God.
guys, I want to hone back
We're gonna
in.
get another Grapes
on-
tweet on here.
Ooh, maybe that'd be pretty cool. By the way, shout outs to Grapes. Now, we are zoning in on our last game here. This is an upper bracket continuation for the team that moves on. Who wins this last game? We saw TSM bounce back after a rough game number 1. Joshi, where are those big focuses here for CLG to get a bounce back?
Jenkins needs to actually play better, right? The fact that he's been being beaten up by Hanser in not just game 1 where he had a winning matchup, but also in game 2. That matchup is not supposed to be that Cassante favored. I'm really hoping to see Jenkins step up a little bit. Now that they've got 2 games underneath their belt, play something where you can be a bit more of a carry, play something where you have a little bit more agency in lane. That'll be good.
Well, maybe the rumble.
Maybe
the rumble.
Maybe the Rumble. I'd rather see the How. The draft is ready to go, so we're going to see what happens in game number 3. Who's got that dog in him?
All right, thanks, Lennon.
That's a throw.
I'll be honest, there's not going to be the dog this time because it's not Wildcard they're facing off against. If it were Wildcard, I might actually think that. But going into this game, both games don't matter anymore. It is a best of 1. Whoever wins this one will move on in the upper bracket to face off against 100 Thieves Challengers. Well, I'd have to do my research really quick on the other screen just to see who they'd face off in the lower bracket. I believe it would be against...
Decided already?
No, I don't think it is. But based off seeding, I think
somebody knows. Somebody knows.
Someone's got to know. Someone's got to know this one. So we'll figure it all out later. But let's look at this game and an adaptation.
Yeah.
Heavy Viego very early.
Very early. It has been something that Kevy kind of made himself known as a carry jungler, especially on magic damage junglers like the Elise or the Evelyn previously, and now we're finding themselves already going towards the Viego for some of these pop-off resets that can potentially come through from that side. But Neo and Draku, they are sticking to their guns. A third game of Zyurkon in a row, and a third game of Aphelios in a row as well for Mage, but this time it's alongside Breezy's Thresh. And you sounded... I couldn't tell if that was excited or disappointed.
I like it. No. I mean, Aphelios Thresh is a very strong lane to begin with. I also like Thresh into Rakan. It is a skill matchup. It is really dependent on how you outplay your opponent, but I think this gives a little bit more agency in the lane phase to both Meech and Breezy fighting up against Neo and Dragq. We saw that they initially had that with Renata, but just one play makes it so that they really can't do anything. They don't feel nearly as confident going into that matchup anymore.
Yeah, and it's definitely a spot where as long as you're on point with the Flays, it's very difficult for Rakan to get in. It's also useful up against the Wukong, but you do have to be very proactive with your ability to read their opponent's movement. Because they're on a relatively low ping, it should not be the most difficult thing in the world to react to, but it's always something you have to keep in mind. Going to the second half of the draft, a very similar position to what we saw previously. Neo really thrived when they had a lot more threats surrounding them, and I would not be surprised if we saw another Cassante ban come through against Hanser, just because he's been so comfortable on it. It's something that you can always have some success on kind of no matter what because of the utility in his kit. And the Scion, the other thing that you can always just pull out at the moment's notice for Hanser.
And Hanser clearly not afraid of picking it blind either when Cho'Gath is available. Looks like that could be the option here, dependent on what CLGC banned this time around. Last game, they banned away Olaf. They didn't want to have to deal with that, but they were on the red side at last time around. So makes it so that we could see that possibly here for Hanser. And they don't ban it at all. They just take away Rise from Doxa.
Yeah. Bit of an interesting thing. I'm trying to think of what that actually opens up, especially with the Silas already banned away. But, I mean, Rise was oftentimes a counter pick to the LeBlanc previously, just because you could root them down and be set up for everybody else. But it is worth noting that the side is going to be coming through. The Cho'Gath did not seem threatening enough for Jenkins the last time around, but it's still one of the best matchups that you can pick up in this top side of the map. So when Jenkins gets ahead on tanks, it is very, very difficult for anybody to move him out of the way, and he can create so much space for his team. But here we go. Copy will have to blind their champion here up against Doxa, or can choose to take the Cho'Gath if they want it.
Yeah, so there is the possibility that you flex it around. Also, hello everyone rating us from the Challengers League. Welcome in. This is Game 3, best of 3 between CLG Challengers and TSM Challengers. Game 1, CLG. It was a well-fought game, but they took that one. And then Game 2, TSM. They found leads. They were able to utilize and exploit mistakes from CLG to find us into this series, into the last one. And let's bring back the point you were talking about, Josh. You talked about how this Cho'Gath can be flexed into mid lane. And with Rumble for Jenkins, this is definitely going to be for Jenkins, something that he piloted in the last week and did an amazing job with. It has put Jenkins more in a carry role this time around. Yeah,
and it's really important to kind of pay attention to the fact that Cho'Gath automatically wins every front-to-back team fight against any other tanks, right? Just because doing 1,000 true damage to the opposing tank is effectively doing 3,000 damage because of how much resistances they tend to have. It makes Meech's job so much easier. It gives Kevin the opportunity to reset off of them. But interestingly enough, by bringing this Rumble in, there's a lot of magic damage coming out from the CLG side of the map. And it does mean that it's going to be kind of hard for TSM to itemize against it. Their plan is instead to blitz the backline and say, I don't care how much magic damage you're going to do. I'm not going to be in a spot where I'm setting on the equalizer.
Yeah, I mean, that's at least what you're hoping for if you're on TSM, just not to stand on the equalizer, getting away from that. But for CLG, they have a good amount of tools to layer up with CC, especially if you can get the rupture with the equalizer on top of it. Makes it nigh impossible to escape, and that'll give extra damage to Jenkins. But here we are. Game 3. Do or die. Do you remain in the upper bracket, or do you fall to the lower bracket where you are in a single elimination? We'll find out here as both teams, they line up. Typical line of scrimmage. Nobody wants to play aggressively and let the tournament lives, well, at least the upper bracket lives, be at stake for a mistake.
We do, in fact, know who their opponents will be. If they do win, it will be 100 Thieves Challengers. Well, if they fall to the lower bracket, it will be up against Team Liquid first.
Perfect.
So, I mean, it's an interesting spot, right? You never want to be in the lower bracket, but one of those is a much easier opponent than the other. So we will see how these guys are going to be playing out. You don't want to fall to the lower bracket, but CLG are here to play. They made a lot of unforced errors in Game 2. They played their team fights much better in Game 1. And TSM, their lanes have just been winning, which is not something that we have typically attributed to most teams outside of like Cloud9. Because CLG just have really strong laners just across the board.
That's how CLG has won a lot of their games during the regular season, right?
Yeah.
They were teams that were so good at blitzing down teams. They're in the conversation with Dignitas Challengers of being a team that went ahead, the game is just over. There's no way to come back because they rarely were making those mistakes. There's more what happens when they don't have those lane states get ahead, where they aren't finding those early leads that they saw. They struggled a bit. But in this series, they won the Game 1 off of great team fighting, especially off the back of Meech. Game 2, mistakes early like you talked about, led to a very easy team fight scenario for TSM Challengers to pick up the win.
Yeah. We'll see what version of CLG we're actually getting in this game. I am going to be paying a lot of attention to how Jenkins' early laning phase does go. Rumble very naturally likes to push out the lane. We've seen him get punished on this side of the map when Svenskeren did choose to stick around.
Nice flash. I like that from Breezy, too. Knowing that they got the level 2 experience lead, I talked about the agency that they get in lane, where they had some power in lane phase, but even more so now. To force out early summoner spells, and with cleanse for Neo, you can get that off too. Just call down Viego and be like, all right, we can set up a dive if we need to, like right there. Okay. Doesn't get the cleanse, unfortunately.
Yeah, just trying to bait something out a little bit, but Meech a little bit too far back to justify going for any summoner spells expended. So here we go, back into the mid lane. It is worth noting that Doxa has been playing from Canada this entire time, whereas CLG, they're all playing on low ping. Doxa has actually been doing quite a good job and has outperformed Copy in both Game 1 and in Game 2. And that's actually a really big excitement here for TSM fans. Doxa has been one of these players who has had a lot of moments where, as one of the younger players, has not always looked quite as good, but it feels as though something has seemingly clicked for Doxa. Now we start going into playoffs. Maybe he's just one of those players that just does way better in brackets.
Some people do. Some people, they thrive in the chaos. They thrive when the pressure is on them to perform. At the moment, Doxa doing a good job against Copy's Cho'Gath. Getting a little bit of a lead, but is calling down Kevy. Look for this play on Doxa to the flash. Oh, but not the Spectral Maw connecting. And instead, with Svenskeren nearby, I gotta have to maybe put that on pause because bot lane looked like they were about to skirmish.
Yeah, I mean, that's the flash coming out of Meech already. Kevy using theirs as well. Surprising moves coming out from CLG earlier on, right? Just because that gank seemed like really tough to make work. Doxa could have absolutely responded to the flash, but just knowing the range, Doxa not worried about it. Nerves cold as steel. And so, I mean, Kevy ends up using their own flash, gets nothing for it. And on the bottom side of the map, Neo and Greku continue to go toe-to-toe with Meech. It definitely feels, again, as though the laning phase has significantly improved with Neo coming into the team.
And Neo is the player that I just want to bring up this point again, because this is the guy who was the ADC for Dignitas last year for the LCS team when they struggled, and then he came down to the Academy circuit as Spawn had gotten moved up. But on that team, when he was brought onto Academy, would then go all the way to the finals. He's on this redemption arc where now he's been dropped down to the Challengers League again, second split in a row. this time by a different organization. He's got a lot to prove to all these teams of why they are wrong and dropping him down and not giving him that shot in the LCS continually.
Yeah, the other player that I think has had a fantastic redemption arc, and specifically in the AD carry role, Stixxay, is now playing some of the best League of Legends that Stixxay has ever played. And it's after just spending a split down here in the Academy League at the time. But Jenkins, nice.
Jenkins, he is feeling confident. He's like, enough of this top lane. I am the king.
The Ignite coming through big. Haunter going to be able to clean up most of that wave, but Jenkins finding that solo kill. This is a little bit more the Bobby J we were talking about, Alex.
He's on more of a carry. He's not really on that tank. He feels far more confident with this style of play than he did previously.
Yeah. And it has been one of these specialties for Jenkins, right? We always talk about like Moose Hater and the Garen, Jenkins and the Warwick, but now it has been the Rumble. I believe this is his third or fourth game on the champion, and taking down Haunter after really struggling to play up against him previously. He's even got the boost of swiftness, and look where Kevy's sitting.
Just hanging around, looking for another play. And guess who's here? Choo-choo train body blocked by Kevy. No flash, slowed down by the Harpoons. Looking for the Flame Spitter, and look at how it melts Haunter. Stunned by the Spectral Maul, and another kill top side.
Great stuff from Kevy to block out the ultimate from Sion, making sure that there's no leaving. Haunter commits the teleport, dies instantly, gonna have to walk on back. Losing a couple more minions, losing another wave, because Jenkins has total control over what to do from this position. CLG, great turnaround from what we've been seeing already.
And it is the night and day for top lane. That they get Jenkins on a carry, they put him on Rumble, feels far more confident on this one. Not only getting the solo bolo underneath the turret of Haunter, but then getting the repeat, well, not the repeat game, but just getting a gank immediately as Haunter goes back into the top lane. Even if it is Sion, and it's not like you're putting the most impactful person behind, you are getting gold onto Rumble, and when we look towards a lot of those team fights, and you talked about how you have a lot of champions on TSM who don't necessarily stand on top of the equalizer. They have a lot of mobility.
Yeah.
Well, you're going to burn before you even have the chance to move with all this damage he's going to provide soon.
Yeah, we'll see how effectively Jenkins can pilot this equalizer, right? The difference between a good equalizer and a bad equalizer is literally game-changing. And so CLG have been a team that has been very impacted by their setups quite a bit. And Neo,
ooh, nice cancel there, but that's going to be the play caller, and it could have been a bait because Meech is taken so low. He does have red-white, keeps him all right. Back underneath his turret as more minions crash in level 6 for Meech. Neo and Raikou shouldn't look for anything further.
And as Raikou does back away, was the interaction taken out? I know they're experimenting with getting rid of it for Zaya Rakan with the combined backing.
I do believe it's still there.
Okay, because I know there's a lot of complaints on Reddit about how that should stay in the game. People were talking about getting rid of it. Anyway, back into the actual game for sure. Is TSM Challengers are the ones who are starting up this Rift Herald. This is a dangerous spot to try and play against the Rumble.
Especially tight corridors. He is going to run away a bit, but that's going to be the choo-choo train with the lineup and the charm. They kill Jenkins, and so look at how Kevy is looking for this play on the Svenskar, and he cannot get there. Instead, with the kill and Dragq being nearby, members of TSM, they'll escort everyone away, even if the rupture does connect onto Dragq.
Yeah, it looks like CLG are going to be the ones who actually pick up the Dragon afterwards because of how low Svenskaren is going. Everybody from CLG commits over to this side of the map, but Meech and Brazy still not on vision. How will they allocate their lanes after? So it looks like Jenkins is going to be running bottom lane, and so both top laners are going to be denied a little bit of gold going up into a 1v2 situation. Definitely beneficial for TSM to be ahead of the play in that regard.
And it's a nice kill for TSM onto Jenkins, but doesn't mean that they get the Rift Herald as you talked about. And something that is interesting to kind of mention is when we look at how this whole series has been, previously in both previous games, the Rift Heralds were secured purely by TSM, while it was always the Dragons for CLG. This time has been flipped on its head a little bit, and with Meech Breezy staying in the top lane, they're just looking to trade plates.
Yeah. It's also worth noting that, unfortunately, CLG are probably the least effective team once they actually pick up the Rift Heralds. But now they use it. Let's go. I was talking to Kevin about this.
Nice.
What is up with all these Rift Heralds? And he's like, we have been so focused on trying to find the perfect situation that we just need to be able to take good situations. Getting this crash, giving over some money to Meech in particular. Huge influx of gold coming out for this AD carry. They find another play coming through. So that's actually, as soon as I say it, that's way more money going over to CLG out of nowhere.
That's perfect. That was a great placement by Kevy. Like you said, doesn't have to be perfect, just has to be good. They got a huge influx for Meech, where he can go back into the spot lane. They can swap up the rules yet again if they want to, and Meech will feel a lot more powerful against Neo.
Yeah, you're seeing that Jenkins is, falling behind a little bit on farm going into Hanser because it's a lot harder to push the Sion out of the lane. Hanser just walking up 1v2 because he knows Meech doesn't do any real damage right now.
Not yet. At least until he can get that IE completed.
Yeah.
It'll be a little bit of time, for CLG at the moment. This is a good game, but we still need to see them turn up the heat. Because I look at their composition, and it's a very unorthodox style. Because you don't have copy building for that tank Cho'Gath. He is going to go for Rod of Ages. It'll be fairly tanky, but it's not like a normal Cho'Gath where you have this big, beefy front line that you could rely on.
Yeah. I mean, he has a lot of HP, but it's way easier to shoot through HP when there's not a lot of armor behind it. And now, as another dragon is actually going to be spawning, CLG, they do have a feast from Copy. Will he use it on minions, or is he going to hang on to it for some kill threats and maybe some threat onto the dragon? CLG definitely not in a position to go for any kind of contest here. And as Copy noms on a minion, it is going to be another dragon going over to TSM.
Like I said before, kind of different from what we've seen from the previous two games between these two. The dragons have been secured primarily by CLG in the entire series, outside of this game and the Rift Heralds for TSM. But all the while that they got this dragon, Jenkins has had all this free time in the top lane to topple the structure, the first one of the game. Extra gold to this Rumble that we already were saying after the two plays earlier are going to make him a menace. Well, when you get the turret gold for yourself, you're going to feel that much more important as we get close to some of these impactful team fights.
Yeah, the extra money going over to CLG, and I was going ooh about the fact that it is in fact a mountain dragon, a mountain rift coming through.
Okay, so everything I said about Cho'Gath not being tanky, I take it back.
Well, he has to get the dragon. That is step one. Right, like if they get the dragons, like Cho'Gath, because they're stacking so much HP, get effective extra HP, right? Because every single time, every one armor is 1% more effective HP, and now CLG, I mean, Kevy had a good gank earlier on going towards the top lane, but hasn't really had a whole lot of other success on the map, falling a little bit behind in terms of the actual farm. And we have to think back to one of the very first ganks that CLG went for, completely ineffective, and now potentially trying to find out Svenskeren.
Haunter is on the move, and same with Drag Q. We've got Doxa in the wing if they want to. They're corralled in the side corridor, but that's perfect for a Rumble because he's got the equalizer. You just got to lay out the red carpet. There it is into the back line, but they re-engage, looking for Copy. They get the kill onto the monkey, and they turn it around. They've got a lot of damage. Haunter's in the thick of it all. They just need to kill Kevy, and they do. While Dragq's on the other side fighting with some portal combat against Breezy, taken down by Thresh. And you know that Breezy wants to get out of this one desperately, but the follow-up with the Spirit Rush, and they can easily chase this one down. They just got to slow him for days to give a kill over to Doxa.
Yeah, I mean, great stuff coming out for TSM, punishing another overextension from CLG. The setup not there. Even though the equalizer did a lot of work, TSM are just more willing to be aggressive in a lot of these team fights. They have the tools to do it. And as we take another look at this, look at how CLG are setting up for this. They are going to be bunched up on top of each other as a ton of melee champions, and that is perfect for Svenskeren. That is perfect for Dragku to catch them all in a single grand entrance. And even though Svenskeren takes a little bit of time to get in on the fight, he's catching all four members yet again. Hanser is going to flash forward here as well in order to try and make sure they can get the last bit of damage. Even though they kill both the right monkey and the wrong monkey that Kevy had turned into, it's still a ton of extra gold going over to CLG, and Breezy I mean, at this point, you don't even need to flash. This guy's got red buff. He's gonna run you down.
I mean, is it really the right monkey when both choices were so wrong?
What?
Because no matter what, they kill the monkey, and they still lose the fight.
Thanks, Shane Goodall. Well, oh no, Kevy was the right monkey, because he became monkey.
Yep.
Return to monkey.
Return to monkey. Okay. I just want to make sure we're getting the right monkeys, wrong monkeys, right.
Yeah.
Because there's a total of 4 monkeys, and you know, it's not like we're playing Donkey Kong 64 anymore.
Yeah, and they're all the right monkeys. But CLG, he will be giving over a fee stack here to Copy, as well as picking up a Rift Trail for themselves. They used the first one. They got a bunch of money over to Meech last time around. He is effectively even in items with Neo at this point, but will not have the second item completed before the next dragon actually spawns. And that's going to be TSM's big opportunity to potentially take a really big fight. Doxa 3-0-1, quietly just getting a ton of damage across every single fight with the effective use of the orb. And Doxa, again, one of the players that we haven't praised a whole lot here for TSM. We keep talking about how excited we were as a collegiate player, but this might be the first one where it's a real Doxa diff.
He started off the season very rough. Like I said, it was jumping into the shark tank, and you weren't ready for the sharks. you didn't understand, like, it was night and day from collegiate here to the Challengers League with the players that you played against. And he did struggle for some time. The growth he has had over this split, if you watch back to like the very beginning of the season and compare that even to week 7, it doesn't look like it's the same player. And now we're seeing that really come to fruition here. Game 3. 3-0 on Ari. He is the carry for the team they need at this mid-game to find these picks, especially if you can land a nice charm onto either Jenkins or Meech. You'll set up the rest of the team to win the fight.
Yeah. Damage goes through on the turret, some damage onto Svenskeren as well. He will jungle privilege his way back up by having the red buff. TSM, they're going to be able to defend all these waves coming through, whereas Meech, I mean, he's transitioning off of red-white. Definitely a much more difficult situation to actually play out with green-white on these guns, as TSM already setting up for the Dragon first, and not great corridors for the Equalizer.
No, even though it is up, you can tell that TSM are playing this one very cautiously. They're a little worried, because having some of these pebbles in their way does make it so there are a few extra corridors that Jenkins can play around. But it's the dance around Dragon. Both teams unsure of how they want to play it. Well, in mid lane, it is the two tanks dealing with one another. Equalizer gets a bit of damage onto Neo, but nothing that can stick. And they can reset onto this Dragon.
Yeah, CLG, without some big ultimates, is an opportunity for a steal, but Hancha has a huge flanking opportunity.
But that pull! Breezy! Oh, they get the steal, they need to, but now Jenkins takes the lantern away while Hunter tries the best that he can to stop everyone from running away, but it means that he got the monkey killed for it, and Copy will fall. Another hook! This time on to Doxa, but Doxa says, I'm gonna re-engage, I've got the damage needed for the team to pick up the kill on a Thresh.
All right, so it's a 2-for-1 in favor of TSM, but CLG is the one that gets the Dragon. That's a ton of effective gold, especially onto characters like this Cho'Gath. It's still a long way left to go for CLG to be back in a situation in which they're in control, but it's a start coming through. And it doesn't feel as though some of the great setups that we've been seeing from CLG in the past are happening right now. They're devoting Copy to actually zone out Hanser, to mark him, to make sure that the big engage doesn't come there. And Copy's typically the big flanker that we have on the team. CLG not going to be able to devote the resources necessary to actually put real threat onto Neo. It really is about these hooks coming in from Breezy, and that's a tough win condition for CLG. The fact that Kevy gets this steal, I don't want to say is a miracle, but they really needed some kind of small win here in order to actually find their opportunity to really play into this game.
Kevy did play that one well, though, with how he layered up, knowing that the staggering staff was going to get as much damage as possible so he could get the smite steal. After the play, though, it is still difficult for CLG.
Yeah. I mean, there's just not a lot after this initial play. CLG overestimate how strong they are. Breezy, once again, testing the waters, only to find out it's like, oh, man, that is burning hot.
Is it burning hot or super cold?
Ice cold.
Ice cold, like
it?
Ice cold?
Ice cold.
Yeah. I was trying to make an analogy about, like, you know, ponds and ice and stuff on it. I don't know where you're going with it.
The song reference, I think.
Is it? I don't know. Oh, Breezy. Sadly, that time he went fishing, wasn't able to land it. Does dodge away from the choo-choo train, but the rest of the caboose hits him in the butt.
Yep, and that's all you need. Train's hurt, and so far, TSM, they're once again in control of this game. We're past the 20-minute mark. Support being dead is probably not enough to convince them that it is okay to go for this Baron.
No.
But still, I mean, TSM, they're the ones making proactive plays, and they have looked so much better ever since they have had these 80 carry swapping down here in the bottom side of the map. So much more direction on the field. And here we go. I mean, once again, uncontested in side lanes. Doxa is getting a little bit more damage. Has done a fantastic job during a lot of these fights. And now, you might actually be able to take a fight against Jenkins.
Good. Nice charm on Jenkins. Equalizer used, but just a nice Spirit Rush away. Dodge away from any damage so they can take the turret pretty easily.
Yeah. There's a really good angle from Jenkins on the Equalizer in order to force out the ultimate from Doxa. But hey, an ultimate trade is just an ultimate trade. Doxa will have that up by the time the next fight is likely to break out.
Yeah, but Jenkins will also have his back up. So, 2 low cooldowns. Nothing ventured, nothing gained, I suppose, from both sides. But kind of regroup and look at how this game is. It's still almost 2,500 gold lead for TSM. So a lot of that is going to be onto the 2 carries of TSM, Doxa and Neo. But really looking at Doxa and how he can pilot around these fights, because with that Banshee's Veil, it does give him a little bit of added safety to try to dash away and find the marks in the backline. But he's got to play impeccably, because the rest of his team has to do one thing and one thing only, and that is defend Neo.
Yeah, I mean, Neo is already quite strong, already has 2 items completed, and is the one that is going to be needed to take down Copy's massive health bar. Minute left before the next dragon. The big question for me is, will Meech actually have the Infinity Edge completed by that point? Because you will need the damage that provides to take down Hanser in some of these big fights. But I also want to kind of go back to the fact that going into this, I think most people had CLG winning this series. They're currently behind in Game 3. And, you know, yes, it feels like CLG is making a lot of unforced errors, but the way that TSM have been playing, they've been so much more proactive. Hanser is proving once again why he's in our conversation for best top laner in the entire league, and they're just looking to make all these different kinds of plays on the map. It definitely feels, yet again, as though some of our teams, like almost every team, could be a contender to go really far in playoffs this time around.
It always makes it hard when you look at how a 16 seed bracket is, because granted, it's double elimination. It seems, even if they fall here, you have a second chance at life. But you get good matchups like this between CLG Challengers and TSM Challengers that are setting the tone for how close this tournament will be. And it also kind of goes into the way where you have to look at playoffs so differently from the regular season, since every single team qualified. All teams, regardless of where they finished in the regular season, are here in the playoffs. So it is about how you perform on the day, how you do in playoffs. We talked about Doxa before. Now, this player, he is showing up already. It is only his first day in playoffs. It's not day 1, it's day 2, but it's his first series in the playoffs. But he's looking so much better than he had in Week 7. And from Week 7 to Week 1, he was already looking like a greatly improved player.
Yeah. I mean, just the growth that TSM has showing us fairly recently is really impressive when you consider they don't have a coach, right? They are just 5 players who have come together and are doing the best that they can. And so far, I mean, one of the things that we've constantly praised about Svenskeren, he's a smart player. Sometimes his mechanics hasn't quite been there, but we've always known he's been very intelligent about the way he moves around the map, about the way he paths in the game. And now that he's playing this Wukong character where you don't need to be a brilliant mechanical player, Svenskeren has been looking good again.
He's played it every game of the series so far. And even if it, like, you look at some of the past games where his deaths kind of tell a different story, it's all been about how he sets up the rest of the team, as you talked about. What he does for everyone else is, okay, Neo gets very low there, but does survive. Cleanse is blown, and he's forced out of this. This gives a little bit of ample time for CLG to look for plays around this dragon. And I kind of want to even, like, okay, we've been talking a lot about TSM because they're the team in the lead. This is the team that is Shocker, that is beating CLGC, a team that has been praised as the Scrim Gods by so many teams. But this is also a team where 4 of the 5 members were a part of the same organization and the same team last year. The only addition that they had is swapping out mid laners to bring in Copy.
Yeah, and I think everybody would agree that Copy was expected to be a upgrade over their previous mid laner triple, and so far Copy has, for the most part, been quite strong, especially in lane, and one of the better flankers that we have, a very intelligent player, is Kevy. Not going to be able to find a stun there, but our game is slowing down quite a bit. It looks like TSM has decided that they want to play the game around the upcoming Dragon Soul, which is going to be spawning in about 2.5 minutes, and CLG, they need to find some kind of play before that actually comes through, because their setups around these dragons are very, very difficult, and it looks like they're getting caught instead.
Looking for Meech. That's the play. They have to continue to attempt, but they didn't get the charm to connect. Meech is still on the other side. That's going to be the Moonlight Vigil. They lost the support. They still have that potential to utilize Meech. As blue and red to try to fight around. Doxa missing the charm, not connecting onto Meech. They've got to kill Meech if you want to win the fight. That's an equalizer. That's massive into the backline. Still untouched is Meech. While they lose out on Copy, Neo picking up the kill, getting Doxa as well a kill in the fight. Well, Neo gets a lot of damage onto Meech, and he lets it rip, but no kill followed up from it because they don't need it. They know what they want, and that is Baron.
Yeah, TSM super patient. Every single one of their players still alive as they move over towards the Baron buff. They're going to be able to pick this up unless Kevin can find another Miracle Steal, but with no flash, no ult. He's going to the other side of the map. This is TSM firmly in control of Game 3 and what is probably our biggest upset, or looking to be an upset so far in the first round.
And I said this before, but the game not being over just yet until the Nexus follows, it's more true in this game because it is on a knife's edge despite TSM finding a great play here.
Yeah, it's on a knife's edge. I think you and I have very different reads of this game, but the big thing here is Meech having to use all of the summoner's spells in order to get himself right on out. And then CLG, I mean, they try and re-engage this. It's a good rupture, but I mean, these equalizers from Jenkins haven't really been finding all the targets that they need to. Meech, without the summoner spells, cannot position as aggressively. And as we see in the live feed, they are losing the mid lane turret. They're going to be losing a ton more pressure on the map. And CLG are not going to be able to set up for this upcoming Baron. Jenkins, once again, opting for the Void Staff now for the immediate power off of a cheap item, instead of trying to wait for something like a Rabadon's, which is not going to come through until 33 minutes.
40 seconds, just a little shy of that until the Dragon spawns. And that is Dragon Soul on the line. CLG, last Dragon they got was off a steal from Kevy. They could rely on that again, but it is so difficult for them to even get into the jungle. You can see how well defended it is by TSM. Making sure they lord that control and are trying to fade in CLG to play their game. With the knockup on a Neo, they will force out the Gale Ports as Dragon goes to the back line. Copy taking a lot of damage to the killing spree. For Neo, the pull from Breezy, wrong target, double knockup, smashing strike as they got the triple kill. Make it more as they look for the Quadra out of Neo!
Neo gets a Penta in his first game back. He's getting a Quadra now. He's going to take this one through, and uh-oh, Kevy trying to bait for the Penta.
Is this enough time for the Penta? Is it for the Penta? Penta kill!
2 Pentas for Neo in so few games. It is absolutely wild how much growth this team has seen simply by changing out a single player. TSM upsetting CLG, moving on in the upper bracket to face 100 Thieves Challengers.
What a spectacular turn for TSM Challengers. Like you said, one new player, Neo, 2 pentakills in 2 weeks, and they move forward in the upper bracket.
Absolutely great stuff. I mean, TSM were looking way more proactive in this last game. This was the first one where it's like, yeah, TSM felt like they beat CLG. It wasn't the same kind of unforced errors coming out from CLG. It really was TSM setting up all the plays, pushing CLG around positions where they were uncomfortable. And it wasn't just the top side that we have been talking about over and over again. Neo stepping up to be a huge carry in both their wins.
And, you know, gotta give so many props over to TSM Challengers with how they've turned around a lot. And Poncer, we praised him a ton. Doxa, though, we've started praising him a lot in that series with how great he was looking and how different it is from the beginning of the split to now. Then Neo, as you mentioned many a time, and we'll continue to mention. But for now, we're going to toss to a break. When we come back, we'll have Mazzella here to interview the jungler of TSM Challengers. It's Sven Skaren who will be on the line. So make sure you stay tuned.
Welcome back, one and all, to the Verizon post-game interview. I'm joined by the jungler for TSM Challengers, Sven Skaren, as we see you take down CLG, what would have been a top-tier opponent on paper. What was the mindset coming into this matchup, man? Was it a kind of underdog story for you guys, or all calm and confident?
I mean, I would say we're pretty confident going into the game. We've had a lot of practice going well, I would say. Like, we're really coming together as a team right now. And, I mean, everyone knows that it's playoffs time right now, so it's time to really step it up. And, I mean, CLGC, the Challenger team, is actually a really tough team. We've had a lot of scrims against them in the past, and I would say it's usually their favorite in the matchup against us. But, I mean, I'm just happy that we were able to step it up big today and overcome them.
Yeah, absolutely. And it came through a lot of cohesion with the team. And part of that cohesion has been Doxa kind of coming into his own. And I know Doxa has shouted you out in previous interviews, but you're kind of sort of a mentor for him at this point, trying to help him ease into the challenger scene. How has it been in that growth session and really seeing that over an entire split work out to some great performances like today?
Yeah, I mean, it's great working with Doxa. He's a really young and... I mean, he's just really young in the scene. He has no experience, right? So he's really trying to learn, and he has basically no ego, so it's really easy to work with. Yeah, great rookie to work with, definitely.
Hey, I love to see it. And those resources start to go his way, too. I love it. It's not just you and Hanser anymore, the solo lanes. But speaking of some resources, you did have a bit of a change in bot lane, but at this point, it's a welcome change as multiple pentas for your new ADC. Got Neo stepping in. What has that done to kind of change your guys' preparation and the way you're approaching playoffs?
Yeah, I mean, that definitely was a little weird that we had to change our ADK, but I mean, stuff happens. So, I mean, I'm just glad that we got Neo at least. At least it's not someone bad we have to play with, so good thing at least it's LCS ADK we have.
You hear that, Neo? You get some nice shout-outs, some nice praise from Sven Skaren here. But you will be going on to face 100 Thieves Challengers next in the upper bracket. Do you have any thoughts, first of all, on the entire team and kind of how they've finished out their regular season?
I mean, they just got Darshan, right? So I think that's going to be really fun. We have Hanser versus Darshan in the Academy playoffs. So, I mean, I'm going to be looking forward for that match.
Now, do you have any thoughts on Yukino, kind of that rising star jungler for 100 Thieves Challengers and the matchup against him specifically?
I mean, I think he's definitely pretty decent. I think he messes up quite a lot of times, so I'll try to punish that. And yeah, we'll just see who's the better team.
All right, maybe some aggressive jungle matchups there. I want to see it. Now, do you have any personal goals here, things that you want to kind of prove? I know we've said winning, trying to get back to LCS, but has there been a mindset shift for you specifically coming into the playoffs and what you want to achieve?
Not really. Same goal. Just keep working hard with my team and try to look the best I can while also working well with my team, you know. Win the playoffs and make it LCS.
There you go. Get that highlight package going as well in some of these plays, man. The Wukong was kind of nuts today. Now, I do want to give you a chance to give some shout-outs before we let you go. Anybody you want to talk about?
Shout-outs to all my teammates. Kevin, Doxa, Neo, and Drago. Also shout-out to Turtle. We were having a lot of fun playing with Turtle, but I mean, stuff happens, you know. I'm at least glad that Neo is playing really well, so...
The call-up
shout-outs to those guys.
There you go. Thank you so much, Sven Skaren. I appreciate you. I'm sure we'll get to talk to you again soon. All right, we're going to go ahead and bring back our analysts here, Joshi and Magical, as we're going to be rounding out the day now. And what a day it was, as we will be having our playoffs bracket come up here very shortly, and especially see where now those matchups do lie in our second round, which kicks off tomorrow.
And playoffs happen so fast here in the Challengers League, and they always do, right? You have 4 days of games coming out. We have more going on in both the upper bracket and lower bracket, and wow, I mean, I think the big thing that we have to look at, this is probably the biggest upset that we have, right? TSM Challengers, based on the seeds, have definitely been one of these teams that were kind of struggling throughout a lot of the season. It really felt like it was all about the top half, but are now a much more well-rounded team, and adding that strength in the bottom lane allows them to take down CLG, who even Spenskaren was saying before the interview that CLG are scrim gods as well.
There's some intense matchups down there in that bottom bracket as well. I'm really excited to see Magical.
I mean, just looking across the board, I think they're great matchups. The only thing that really stands out to me that it breaks my heart is how many provisional teams are in the bottom, right? We only have Fear that we're able to best their opponent and make sure they stay in the upper bracket, which means that looking at CLGF versus Wildcard, one provisional team, pretty much, not pretty much, that one provisional team is guaranteed to get knocked out.
Yeah.
That team will obviously then automatically be a part of the relegation tournament because they would be the lowest one. Then
Indeed.
EGC versus AoE, again, another one of our provisional teams that has their head on the line on whether or not they're going to have to play in that relegation tournament. FlyFam versus IMTC, I think, is actually a very hype matchup because FlyFam at least showed life today. And they have bested IMTC, so it has been 1-1 in their series. And then last one, TLF going up against CLGC. That's going to be really rough for Team Liquid first.
I love your focus. I hate everything that you did not focus on Dignitas versus FlyQuest. We literally had an interview where Dive was saying, bring me the fisticuffs.
Right, you told me to look at the lower bracket. Come on, you told me lower bracket.
Excited. I'm so excited. I cannot wait to see that. That'll be in a couple days' time. But we have so many hype matchups, so much story that has been built over the regular season, cresting into playoffs. It's going to be a lot of fun. Thank you all for joining us today. Joshi, Magical, thank you for being my pawns in my would-be games of our anime training arc here to start us off for the NACL playoffs. To our production crew, thank you all so much for making us look so good. Subhouse, Subway, Monkey Bubble, and Rally Cry wouldn't be here without you. And our audience, our players, wouldn't have a job without you all. So thank you all for tuning in, having some fun alongside with us. But we will be right back tomorrow for some more League of Legends as NACL playoffs for spring continue. We'll see you there.